point. Thanks, Hannah.
That's okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. It's lovely to be here and lovely to hear from my fellow speakers this morning as well. There's so much that resonates from what everyone said already. But I'm here to put a legal spin on things, so no chucking vegetables or booing, please. Obviously, Victoria mentioned having a couple of hats. Well, I probably have a wardrobe full of them, to be honest with you. But today I'm going to speak to you initially about my work as the director of the Grampian Community Law Centre, which is part of the law school at Robert Gordon University in Aberdeen. So I joined the university, I studied at the university, obviously when I was becoming a solicitor myself. I'm a practising solicitor, have been now for 7 years. And it was lovely to be asked to go back to set up this clinic. There was a kind of version of the clinic already, but it was very ad hoc. And I went back in and I thought to myself, this is an opportunity to make a difference, both for people and for the planet. And I considered quite deep how I was going to achieve that. And so I set up the Grampian Community Law Centre, which was a total rebrand, and initiated 2 clinics. So we have a community clinic and we have a climate clinic. And the community clinic is embedded within a local medical practice within Aberdeen, so that we can have a holistic approach to providing free legal services to people who wouldn't otherwise be able to afford free legal advice. And so they can come in to us, they can make an appointment to come and see us, or they can be referred to us by the medical practitioners in the practice. And for the community clinic, we offer advice in relation to social welfare law, so housing, employment, sometimes fuel poverty, debt, really anything that comes up, because we do a lot of signposting as well to other agencies. And we've really been overwhelmed with work, which is both sad and promising, I guess, in the sense that we're able to offer something to the community. The second part is that we have a climate clinic. And the climate clinic, the focus for that is obviously to try and give something back to support us during the biodiversity and climate breakdown. And the purpose of that was that I'm a former planning lawyer. So at some point in my history, I became a planning lawyer for a couple of years and tended to work on the side of developers, and very quickly realised that that didn't sit terribly well with my own ethical compass, I guess. But I felt that I could bring that experience to the climate clinic. And within that clinic, we focus on matters of planning, development, environment, and animal law. Animal law is my expertise. I am basically focused upon wildlife crime in various guises as well, and also the environmental side. I'm an associate with the Environmental Rights Centre for Scotland. So, obviously, the reason that I felt the climate clinic was so important was because prior to coming into that role, I had been involved with a campaign in Moray. My family live in Moray, and I'd been made aware of this campaign to save a woodlands in Buckie called Slochy Woodlands, and some of you might be familiar with that already. And what I found was that there was this really tight, strong unit of people from the community who'd come together and decided this was not something they wanted to happen. They did not want this developer to decimate this woodlands for 7 luxury homes. And what could they do to prevent this from happening? And they had done all the right things. They did petitions, they marched on the site, they lobbied their MSPs, all that good stuff. But actually, when you dig down into that, some of that is great for raising awareness, but actually the impact that it has is fairly low. And you do need to have a legal perspective on these things as well. And so I became involved and represented the group on a pro bono, free of charge basis. And obviously I took that case with me into the climate clinic when I set the climate clinic up. And what we did was I put together a case and I appointed an advocate to represent us, someone that I work with in my role as a Scottish Steering Group member at the UK Centre for Animal Law. And I knew that he would understand why it was so important to try and save this woodlands and this vital wildlife habitat. So we came together, and finally, after nearly 2 years, in February this year, we ended up in the Court of Session, and we were in front of a panel of 3 lords that heard our case for all of about 15 minutes. And we came away not feeling terribly positive about it. They didn't ask too many questions. They didn't seem that interested. But we got a judgment within the next 3 weeks, and we won. Yay. So basically, it was found that the decision that the local review body, the Moray Council, had reached was unlawful and therefore had to be quashed. And now we understand that the developer involved is seeking alternative sites and doesn't intend to go back and look again at that woodlands. So small win, but huge win for the community, huge win for wildlife. And again, I think that's really what focused my mind in terms of the climate clinic. I thought there's a real injustice here in terms of access to environmental justice. And that was something that I wanted to try and fill if I could. So that takes me on to another case that I've taken on now through the Climate Clinic, which is St Fittick's Park in Aberdeen. Some of you might be familiar with that campaign already. So I've come together with an academic from Aberdeen University and the Environmental Rights Centre, which obviously I'm already involved with. And we are advising the Friends of St Fittick's Park campaign group as to how they can challenge the decision of Aberdeen City Council to include St Fittick's Park, which is a huge expanse of green space, within the proposed energy transition zone for Aberdeen. So obviously they are selling this on the basis of just transition, but actually it's really going to impact upon the community. The area of St Fittick's Park is Torry. It's under-deprived, or it's deprived, should I say, and basically they're found to have a life expectancy in Torry 13 years lower than the other areas, more affluent areas of Aberdeen. And they've already been impacted by development, harbour developments. They've just got an incinerator stuck in the middle of their community. And no matter how loud their voices seem to be, they never seem to be heard. And so this is just another aspect where they're going to take away one of the last remaining green spaces for this community. And there are lots and lots of really excellent videos on YouTube about the campaign if you're interested in learning a bit more about that. So we have been lobbying the Scottish Parliament. We've been putting together a legal case. We've been to the Parliament and stood outside and said our piece, but there's much more to be done on it, and there's a long road ahead to try and save this, which in a time of, like I say, biodiversity and climate crisis, it seems absolutely bonkers, in my opinion, that we should be having to take these steps just to save, vital spaces, not just for wildlife, but also for recreation, for people's mental and physical health. We've had an open letter from medical practitioners who've come out to say, across Aberdeen, that this will have a huge impact upon the community, and still it seems that money is overshadowing that aspect. So we're involved with that, but to coincide with it, we're also setting up a People's Assembly for Torry, for the area of Torry, which is something that's new to me, to be honest. But we felt that there was such a strength of opinion opposing this development and other things that had happened in that area that hadn't been picked up, their voices hadn't been heard, that we wanted to bring this, all these people together and try and make sure that they have a voice for moving forwards. And so now we're in the process of doing that. We're going to have an actual People's Assembly taking place in May. At the moment, we're doing these steering groups to identify the main areas that we want to cover in that assembly. There's quite a lot involved in these assemblies, so I'm happy to speak to anyone individually about it after I've done my talks. I'm conscious I'm whittering on a bit here. But I guess there are a couple of things that I wanted to cover before I finish, which is some takeaways, but also some hot off the press type stuff as well. So I'll start with the hot off the press stuff. last night I had the privilege of attending a parliamentary reception at Holyrood with Maggie Chapman and a number of other MSPs, and this was in my role as part of the Environmental Rights Centre for Scotland. And what we were discussing was where we see the future of environmental law going, particularly for communities. And so we were obviously discussing the Human Rights Bill, which is going to be coming to the fore shortly, and the push for a right to a healthy environment. And that's something that the Environmental Rights Centre has been heavily involved with in campaigning for. And I would urge you to have a look at their website to see that you can follow the work that we've been doing there. But we also discussed the prospect of an environmental court, which would give third-party people rights of appeal. And it might also be that, judicial reviews or challenges of planning decisions might also go to this environmental court. We have courts for other things. We have employment tribunals, we have housing tribunals. But the one thing that seems so much bigger than all of that is the environment, yet we don't have a separate environmental court, which is at odds with other countries. So there is a consultation that's going to be opening in May this year, a Scottish Government consultation, asking for views on this proposed environmental court. And I would urge you that if you feel strongly about this, if you've been impacted by it, then please have a look at that and get involved and put your opinion across. So lastly, just some takeaways for you from what I've learned from being involved with community groups. There's so much more I could say to you this morning, but obviously I've got to give Neil a chance to speak, I suppose.
Thank you.
So the thing is, as members of the community and as people who are leading members of the community, I think it's really important, first of all, to be tenacious, not to give up. Don't think that things are hopeless. You might think that, that there's a long road ahead or something could be really expensive, but keep pursuing things, and make sure, tied to that is, know who to contact, know who to turn to if you need advice and guidance on certain things that you're faced with. So it might be if it's a community thing, a social welfare thing, it might be that my centre or other centres like us could help you. Or if it is climate related, then again, obviously we've got our climate clinic, but also there's the Environmental Rights Centre for Scotland. They do fantastic work. Like I say, I'm an associate, but there are other associates right across Scotland, and we all have slightly different areas of expertise that we can advise you on. So have a think about that and check them out. But also think outside the box. Sometimes things are not obvious to us, and you might have to just think, is there another way to skin this cat? And I love cats, but just think, is there another way that we can potentially achieve this goal? And think about that. But I think for me, it's all about the passion. Is this something that I feel really passionately about? Is access to justice and particularly making a difference for people and for the planet. Thank you.
Fantastic.